expense of $993.03. Questions?
Okay, a motion to approve the finance report. So moved. Second. We'll let Raymond second this one because he's trying to stick his hand up and he's really here. All those in favor, please signify by raising your paws. Yes. And opposed and one abstention. Yes, thank you. Operations.
Well, except for showing up the room tonight.
I walked in and it was like, huh?
Anyway, long story there. There was an email with communications mixed up regardless. We were able to compliment to saying, what a terrific it is, if we need more cans, there's a closet. And the churches, they were good about that. Actually, let us know if this arrangement works, because this would actually be less work for them. And this is kind of nice for us, especially somebody giving a clinic. They have room to walk around and do things. Anyway, it's an option. Let me know what you think. We have clinics, a list of them in the report. I'm not going to read them all out again. But yeah, we're pretty good. I think, Walt, I think you're good for March clinic.
Yes, yeah, I'll have a clinic.
Fabulous. So we're good for that. The trains went well. There was a good turnout. The Golden Spike thing went well. There were volunteers, and thanks for all the volunteers. Training camp's been postponed, scheduled for April 2nd. Other than that, we seem to be good.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in Kansas. And where? And no, but there's like not that I knew of. But if anybody knows of any shows, let me know and I'll plot them on the calendar. So.
I don't know of one in
Joe Scale Group has a function with the church, I think, in Roswell.
Who does? Oh, at the Lutheran Church. Okay.
I'll look into that. So, other than that, that's what we're doing.
We need to talk about the title of my clinic in May. Okay.
We can fix that.
Yeah.
It's just this.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. Gary submitted a membership report. But I don't, of course, I'm not wearing the right glasses to see distances, but I don't see Gary. Bob, website.
Website is protecting. We had a call this morning. Are working on details at this point. Progress.
Walt, you want to come speak about the convention?
Okay, so the SCR 2023 convention is a go. Jim sent the check. They should have gotten it today, or most likely. I haven't talked to her today, so we're going to be having it at the Cartersville Convention Center, Clarence Pound Center, and looking forward to it. So far, we've got a few people on the committee. I'm going to be reaching out to a few others to get everybody jobs assigned. And then we're going to come up with a new name for the convention after we get the committee formed. Basically, the convention is going to be in September 2023. So hopefully around August, we will have the website this year up and running 1 year out, hopefully a little bit more than 1 year out. we'll try to have everything up and running, so you can start doing registration, which is typically what the pattern is, even though there's not a convention this year. So it should be a lot of fun. We're going to plan a lot of tours, as far as a lot of operations, before and also during the convention. And then we're also going to have a really, really nice banquet at the convention center. So there will be also a white elephant table. It'll be there. And then the profits, whatever that will be at the end, will be split 50-50 between the SCR and the Piedmont division. So it'll be a lot of fun. So just be watching out as we start getting all the stuff organized. That's it.
Would be nice to have a lot of Piedmont division members there. We did at the last Southeast Region Convention. It'd be nice to have them here too. Mike, anything more you want to say about, where'd you go? Anything, oh, there you are. Anything, yes, I need to change glasses again, oh well. Anything more you want to say about the pilgrimage?
About the stars last month. Anybody coming that hasn't received it, expecting to get it tonight, needs to see me if they did stars. The other thing is of note is that Mr. Sullivan has gone to take the reins after my last tour this year.
Online, did you guys hear that Joe Sullivan is taking the reins of pilgrimage chair for next year? Okay, then that is working. Good. Thank you, Joe.
I will continue to support him for the following year as the website.
Joe, we will all pray for you.
Mr. Mason, AP, anything interesting that you want to report for AP? I mean, you submitted a report, but. Okay. Thank you. Very cool. Chuck and Marianne Hash wrote an email or a note. They had nothing to report. I want to make sure there's nobody sitting in the, nope, nobody's sitting in the lobby. Okay. Hank, Model Train Show, do you want to come up here and speak to us about the train show? Sure. While you do that, I will. Okay. First, come up here so that people can see you.
I just gotta come around here. Okay, the train show is coming along very well. I think as of this afternoon, we had sold approximately 65 tables and have 19 vendors, which is pretty good. But what we have seen is nobody wants to pay their money too soon. So the last 2 weeks before the train show is when we get clobbered. All of the things which we need, all the licenses, all the things which we need like that, have all been done. So they're just sitting and waiting, and things are coming along well. There is one thing, and I'm going to let Jim talk to, that we need, and that is about volunteers.
How y'all doing? As the board of directors, I would hope that each one of you would sign up for 5 different slots. I know Perry, you're gonna do the traffic this year?
I am on call that weekend.
Oh,
Yes.
my heart broke.
Yeah, the engineer who lives in Cartersville is actually going to take a little bit of the weekend for me,
Okay.
because I covered a little bit of his weekend last weekend, but I am on call that weekend. It's,
Okay. Well, we need a lot of volunteers. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on at this show. So I'm going to pass this around and try to get the board of directors to all see if I can get it filled up as much as I can. And then we'll pass it around at the show. This is directly off of the sign up sheet that Gary has on the website. So if you've already signed up on that, it should be on here, but you're still available to put your name down for something else, and then we'll fill in the other one. So thank you all much.
We really need it. We have 86 positions that we have to fill in, really be successful. And we're really hoping that the membership comes, because this is our train show. This is our thing. And the more people who volunteer, the less the people who volunteer get kind of beat up. I mean, we had guys that were sweating like dogs loading up last time. Not everybody can do a load up, but those who can. We also got a lot of positions where all you got to do is sit there. And we need those filled too. So, plus you signing up, I hope that you encourage everybody else you know in the division to sign up too. And this is a really big thing. You'll see several of these coming out from Gary saying, please sign up, because we're going to push it hard all the way up to the show so we can get this done.
Plus the fact that you get free admission, both days,
And free parking.
and free parking.
yes.
So
That's
it's going to be tough, folks. And you got to understand, this is the only moneymaker that the division has. So if we don't make this train show work, we ain't got no money. So let's see if we can't knock it out of the park this year.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
We're at 38 out of 108 slots filled as of about now.
38.
38 out of 108.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Pardon me? The dates are the 12th and the 13th of March with a setup date of Friday, March 11th. Anybody else?
I just cut it in half.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Can you still hear us out there? Okay, good. Sally. There is no Sally yet. But she did submit a marketing report. And if James is here, please pick up your badges, or if you know anybody who has a badge from the table when he lays them out, please pick those up. Is it okay still? Okay. Division, video library, nope. Book library, nope. Nothing came from a video. The next training camp is April 2nd. Walt is the lead instructor for it. I did submit a report on it. I have information for you, Walt, that I will send to you. Especially as people continue to register, which is useful.
Normally there's a fee for the building that has been waived, that is saving us about $150 for the building.
We've got about a dozen so far who've registered for it, actually registered, including kids, which is nice because that's what we want to attract anyway. Model Learning 101 is the one on April 2nd. And then April 20, I can look on my phone. It is. It's the 23rd. April 23rd is track building with fast tracks. And you're moving in March. Hmm? Oh, yeah. Okay. 501c3 update. Yes, the mail went past each other. which is annoying. Motion. I don't know what else to call it. No, that's next. Get out of the way.
So I had to type it out so I can read it, so I don't get confused.
So basically what this is, what I wanted to handle was giving the board of directors time to consider motions appropriately, rather than having a motion introduced and having them vote on it right then. So I'm going to just read this because it might sound better. So, with the exception of emergency items that must be immediately addressed by the board in order to not substantially affect the division, motions made as new business will be voted on at the next scheduled board meeting, if not an emergency motion. The motion will then be an old business agenda item for the next scheduled board meeting. At that meeting, the superintendent or his or her designee will reintroduce the motion for discussion, provide a summary of the work session discussion if applicable, and ask for a vote. So, and we can basically get together and talk about it in between the two meetings. The superintendent and his or her designee would determine whether the motion should be immediately considered as an emergency item. So that's my motion. There you go.
Yes, so people can update it,
Yeah, if you want to do it that way, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
which is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. I don't think so.
Straw vote right now to see if we can, what they think of it, just an informal.
Sure.
Yes.
Raise your hand. Say why.
That's my motion.
Let's do. Okay. Mr. Rick.
Well, we both.
No, we did, we're going to, the straw vote seems to indicate that we won't need a work session for this, but at least people can digest it because it'll get published in the minutes for this meeting and it'll get rolled into old business next time, but it'll be there. Mr. Rick.
You got it, right?
Yeah.
You know, talk about the motion for the elections. What has to be that's fine. It's my fault. It's been slammed.
Okay.
So, for those of you who don't know what that's about, it's just put in bylaws that gives the board flexibility. We need to have election law. None of it's all but if there's another spike or something happens, then we can do election online and there's that decision would have to be, I believe, the goal is 60 days in November. So that's the next step.
Okay. Could you guys hear Rick?
I got the gist of it. The other thing I would like to add is that by adding this flexibility, it should enable more members to participate in the election process that can't, for whatever reason, attend the meeting. Good, bad, or indifferent reason.
I kind of like it because it was easy for me just to go click and be done with it.
Yeah.
So I need to turn the volume here back up.
But then they won't be able to hear here. Okay, that's the problem. Because it's right behind the microphone. Which has a different way to get that. TV, but not that one.
The only problem is this one is the host for those two.
Well, that makes Okay.
Can we, I wonder if we
move the podium.
move the podium. I wonder if that works.
That way your microphone's not raised.
Right in front of the television.
You got enough cable.
Turn the volume back up on. Oh.
You got it better for us to move the plug. Because there's another plug over there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, right behind that. There. Can you hear them better now? Speed.
So I can still hear you clearly, Perry. How am I?
The microphone is picking up the television.
Yeah.
No, my microphone is.
Oh, that one.
So if I mute here. Now where am I being picked up from?
I can still hear you.
I just muted me.
Yeah, but I can still hear you through the other microphone.
Okay. Which is the one that's being controlled over there. Is the echo annoying?
No.
Okay. New business that I didn't include. New business.
Oh.
Okay. Any other business?
Perry, so are we saying that a hybrid system is potential for both mice? No, not at all. I mean, it sounded like a lot of people were just happy to do it like a regional or national.
That's one to discuss. I guess I've heard comments, and I agree that people come to the meetings. But everyone should have the opportunity. Since we have people as far away as Rome.
Yes.
South Carolina, so that's. This
Then
is
if
just
we
the
give an
flexibility.
option.
Right.
I don't want to discourage people from coming to the meeting because
No,
they don't have.
that would be the first choice, but it's up to the board to give them flexibility. But no. it should be-
Then if there is no other, oh, yes, sir.
This the Elegant Historical Society and Southern Railway Historical Association are talking about having a joint meeting in Chattanooga, TDR in about October 1st. Nothing set yet. They are soliciting help from us and Chattanooga Division and CR. I'll be talking to people about this.
Yeah, I got an email from Mike asking me to help.
Yeah.
Okay. Clinician help or?
Coordination of everything.
Okay. Always money. Okay. Please keep us informed, because I haven't seen anything about it, but I don't belong to either of those two groups. Okay.
You can always tell them that they can execute with the train show to be able to demonstrate that or put out any information they want.
When's your fall meeting?
Pardon me?
When's your fall meeting?
All meeting?
I assume we're doing two meetings, two
Oh, this train show, we do it would be in October.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
They come to this train
I'm
show,
not talking about the March train.
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
I'm the one most.
Then being no other business, motion to adjourn. Move. Second, Hank, somebody, the end. We have time before Peter speaks.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Oh, I can't read through it.
I didn't see her emotions there.
Oh.
Okay, all those in favor of adjournment, please stick your paws in the air.
Oh, well,
Thank you. The end. 1839.
actually during the looks like during the clinic, you wouldn't necessarily need to get people to text questions in. Wouldn't need to have the volume up at all on this.
Yeah, that's true.
Sir?
I need to leave this up though, because I need.
So this guy was doing this documentary and spices it up, clips, anime and so on. At one point, he was talking about operations on Enterprise and showing jet sticking off, and he's showing CBN and they told me about everything. And suddenly, I'm thinking, wait, no, wrong ship, wrong one. And then suddenly I'm like, no, stop. Wrong ship, wrong one. Okay, we're connected here. He does that just to break up, whatever tension. Anyway, one of the things is so there was this TV show, right? Really popular. Music so popular, they were playing it. They're in Japan, their version of the Boston Pops. There's an entire, it's the entire show.
The people talk about.
It's not what?
And whenever you get the chance to mention it, the moment
Oh. Okay.
shows this CGI, beautiful CGI.
Beautiful show.
Yeah, of the ship at sea,
There was
and it's overlaid with the last words of songs from each, actually, each stanza in such a way. Japanese. Space battleship Diablo.
Yeah.
Send the ship.
And I sent that email. Yeah, I sent that email out and I sent the email and the other page after. I know. So look at the seal under and been walking in probably. I can see what.
The Koreans would not believe it. That's with a whole Japanese. Not only was the one implemented to the entire Japanese combined. I said to them, pretty much every Japanese heavy
It's set up the way traditionally for Zoom.
And she does this stuff all out through it. It's
Honestly,
I thought it made it very interesting. That.
And we set up, we rolled out more big round tables because we needed more space and drug out tables for bringing brag and stuff. The only problem with bringing brag is get over there and do it to the room where it normally is.
Do you want to move the table? Right now?
Oh, for the bring and brag?
Yeah, that might actually be the thing, and we could even put it there.
Put it right here.
Yep, put it right there.
That's sweet. I like that.
Tom, take a thought. Now your possession.
It was living in my trunk.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
You may have to lift this really top. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna go around, so you can go around the, okay.
Oh, it moved, but I'm tripping over something anyway.
You're good. See it, and then when you just move the camera over.
Yes.
I like that. It's all yours.
And Bob Kelshaw is focused on it, and
Yeah, that's just like the here's the
good. Thank you. It's not bad.
It gives us a little more flexibility.
Yes, it does.
And we can bring them, we can get them put out. You know, 4 or 5 pages. More stuff. There's plenty of chairs and.
Yes.
But you know.
I kind of like it.
I'm not reading emails.
And with the board meeting, I think. I think so. I kind of like it.
So strange. They don't get a break. We're not requiring as much. They can set the room up in probably 15 minutes.
Yeah. I'm kind of,
They set it up Monday.
yeah, I'm kind of pleased with,
I gotta talk to
That's why I put it on tell this. Peter, you ever look at I got it.
Bob, it was a bad.
Yeah, that probably machine. He's kind of the overseer of the yeah. You know where it's at?
Website tells me, yeah. The website is pretty good.
Okay.
The 175, but give her and this is exactly what to do.
My wife respects myself.
Yeah, it's Friday night. So this is great. Yeah, that's it.
Still doing some side stuff. Big thing, speaker is going to be spiked in. Yeah, it's kind of now and a half.
Dialogue.
Oh, but I have told you. You can't come here.
So bring,
We used to, we had a guy burn stuff. Yeah. But at this time, no. They'll be sticking. I mean, her number doesn't. Dan, yeah.
He was organized.
Yeah.
I got a one-on-one. Very good relationship, they kept pushing the money.
Yeah, we're trying to get rid of his layout there.
Oh, yeah.
They are doing.
What's gonna happen to it?
And, but that's. Well, I can't really, that just. Yeah. It does, the Democrats, it just tag.
Oh, so
Well. It's, that is arrogance. Like 6 o'clock, are you sure? Building to go, then it's an. They're all just.
Yeah.
It worked. Can you, is this on camera?
I don't know what else.
Hello, test, hello. Test, one page. Okay.
Maybe it's the guy. Yeah, tell us an awesome. But if it wasn't, if it had that was a no.
So you got,
He does that, that's better.
okay, get lost.
Yes. Keep that on the break. Oh. That's great.
First two words.
Yeah. Yeah, we should laugh. All of this collections. You can hear me, maybe it's doing that. You can't hear me.
Yes. Chance. I am an ambassador. That's one of the things I created when I did this. And since the concept it's formed. Yeah. So. Yeah. Let's see if anybody else is trying to get into the room. Oh, yeah, there are people who are trying to get into the room. Guys, all right. Which is what I'm trying to wait, which is what I'm supposed to be watching for, and I think I will stand here and watch.
Okay, okay. We're just gonna use this for the mic right now. The church uses it.
Yeah. Oh, and it did work. I heard you tapping on it. I wonder what was
Convenient.
Yes.
Let me move it over.
Okay.
We'll fine tune this setup. Somebody else there. Go through stuff. I think we tweaked this a couple of months ago. It's down.
Yeah.
One thing we're gonna have to figure out, how to do a microphone thing to where it feeds directly into that. Well,
It is, but it's still picking up sound
yeah, it's
from
sound
here.
from the TV.
And we have to have the sound from the TV. And I discovered that my church has exactly the same issue because we've been doing new officer orientation.
Yeah.
And like when I'm on call and working the late shift, I can't be at the church at 6 p.m. for the meeting. I work until 8 p.m. That doesn't work. So
What did they do?
they're having the same issue. They ended up having to turn the sound off for people who were online. All we could do
The sound from the room has disappeared.
You set it up to pay every month, or you can just pay in a chunk, just pay for the whole year, not worry about it. They charge a little bit. We ask you to eat the charge if you can. It'd be kind of nice. Or give extra.
sounds-
That's cool too. Anyway, is there anybody here this first time at one of the meetings? We do have someone. Fabulous. Uh-oh, you get a time. Sorry, the camera's not gonna be here. If you could tell us your name, don't pay. Your name, what's the other model, where you live, that kind of stuff.
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank Brakowski, and I'm very new to this whole hobby. Currently just in the planning phase. Okay, I'm just in the planning phase right now and looking at an HO system. And I know enough to be dangerous, so I'm thinking about like PCC and just a 4x12 layout with 2 trains, 2 tracks, and a lot of things like that. So, but I'm doing a lot of YouTube videoing, and I'm getting very confused, so I thought I really needed to come to practice. Thanks. East Coast, over here about 5 miles.
Oh, 5 miles. Oh, we have another volunteer.
My name's Terry Smith. I moved to the Carrollton area in July. It was Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I was active out there. 3 terms as president of the Green Country Model Railroad Association. I modeled Santa Fe with an interchange at Frisco, of course, I'm between layouts right now. Very active in the operations community out there, operating on places like Sammy Carlisle, Suburban Subdivision, Steve Davis, who's Kansas City Third Subdivision. So anyhow, if you know of any modelers in the Carrollton area, I'd sure like to know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Jack Rogers.
We're in pretty good shape then. It's good to get some new folks here. This month, well, actually from here out, we're going to try to do hybrid meetings. As it stands now, we're asking everyone to wear a mask because the virus is still having too much fun, and we're not. So hopefully by next month, we're not sure. We'll let you know in time whether we'll get people to say, okay, masks are optional. And that's coming up. Don't forget to pick up name tags. Sally's got them over there. If you've ordered one, please pick them up. She's going to start using hand trucks to bring the name tags people haven't claimed at this rate. So please, yeah, go ahead and pick up your name tags. All right, Perry.
Yes,
You're up.
I am. You've basically covered everything. My name is Perry Lamb. I am the division superintendent. Welcome. It's nice to see people here. Yes, we will probably be headed back next month to mask being optional because the numbers for COVID cut in half between January and February, which is nice. There is an open house this month for division members. We're going back to that. It is on the website, and it's the Utah, Colorado, and Western, my layout. Why I volunteered for this, I'm not quite so sure, but I did. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. And I've been doing a lot of scenery work recently. I should have brought with me, and I did not. We're supposed to bring a project that we're working on. You'll have to come and see the library that I built dedicated to my mom. My mom was a librarian in Oklahoma for many, many years. She actually has a library named for her in Oklahoma, and I'm building one that I'm naming for her on my layout, and new water and all kinds of stuff. So you're welcome to come and see the layout. And please volunteer to support us at our train show. Our train show is coming up in March, and we need volunteers. And you'll hear more about that later. I think that's it.
Thank you, Perry. And Gary Fish, did you have anything you needed? Okay. Yeah, we had some really good shows last couple of months, Golden Spike Show and Trains. Gary was there. And membership table, getting a lot of names for good publicity, and that's been fantastic. We appreciate all the volunteers, and there were a lot. And speaking of volunteers, Hank, you want to talk about the Piedmont Division Model Train Show? I think that's the words. I used the right words. By the way, that's another thing. Piedmont Division Model Train Show is what Hank wants us to use for the train show, which is a lot more descriptive of what it is. So, and its official name. And here's Hank. Okay.
Yes. On the advice of marketing people that know a lot more than us, we needed to brand our show. So we've branded it. Now we have to get in the habit of using the name of Piedmont Model Train Show instead of just saying train show. I know, but it comes from people that know a lot more than I do, so I'm going to assume that it works. The train show is proceeding very well. We have up to date sold more than 65 tables. We have over 19 vendors already signed up. Many of the guys are probably waiting until the last minute because nobody wants to pay out money too far in advance. I understand that. This time we are actually shooting for more tables. Last time we had 113 tables sold. We're trying to push at least up to 130. That will get us more, and I think it'll even have more fun in there. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jim, who's going to talk about volunteers, because we need volunteers because this is our train show. I mean, it belongs to the whole division. So here you go, Jim.
Thank you, Hank. As some of you might not know, this train show is the only opportunity our division has to raise money. And in order to put this train show on, we need a bunch of volunteers to make it work and work smoothly. Now, we can make it work with just a few volunteers, but it certainly is not going to be smooth. And that is one of the things that this division has always been noted for, is the number of volunteers that we had to help our vendors come in and unload off the trucks and get to their place, and then load them up after the fact and get them back out to their trailers. So we need volunteers for tickets and everything. I've got a list here that I'm going to pass around. I'm going to give the board of directors a second opportunity. because I looked at it and I didn't see everyone else's name on it. But if you would, please consider signing up for 1, 2, or maybe even 3 or 4 positions. We've got a lot of positions, and we need your help. And again, this is our show, and if we don't do what we need to do to make our vendors happy and comfortable, we're not going to have any vendors next time. So, need your help. And if you have any questions, please see me. Also, how many of you folks here are going to participate in the White Elephant Table? If you are, Howard Goodwin over here, wherever he went, has got the chits that you need to go over and sign up for and get the number of chits that you need, so you'll be able to participate in the White Elephant Table. You cannot just bring something in and put it on the table. You've got to sign up, get a chit, and then use those chits to identify your product with, okay? So if any questions on that, see Howard. Any questions on volunteer, see me. Any questions on the train show, see Hank. I think I've covered everything.
Fabulous. Thanks, Jim. And Hank, that was really good. The train show is going to be good. Oh, one more thing.
Piedmont Division Model Train Show. Ruh-roh. I'm in trouble now. Anyway, Charlie, he does have, oh, somebody's here. Charlie has, does all the advancement certificates.
You're supposed to hand this out.
Oh, I thought you were.
You took it from me.
I took it from, okay.
I am Charlie Mason, your Achievement Program Chairman for the Piedmont Division. And in the last several months, we've had quite a number of people earn awards and certificates, some of which we've given out, some haven't. But tonight, Ken Stinnett is here. So Ken, if you'll come up. Ken has earned the Golden Spike Award. So congratulations, Ken.
Turn it off.
It does help.
Thank you. Yay.
We are going to try to hold a model contest and a photo contest at the April meeting. Hopefully we'll all be meeting here once again. COVID will have decreased. And so get your models ready and be sure to fill out the entry forms when you bring the models in. One other thing is the division has been given quite a few of the Fast Tracks tools and jigs, and these will be made available to members to use for scratch building track work for the AP Civil Certificate. So if you're interested in that, talk to me sometime.
Thanks, Charlie. Couple of other things. The training camp has been postponed till April 2nd. Might have seen an announcement on that. Check the webpage, has all the information on it. I need volunteers to have open houses. Perry volunteered. This is members only open house. This isn't open to the public. This is just people within the division. And Perry graciously volunteered for this month to kick it off. And what I need is more people to volunteer to have an open house. Just one a month. And it's more of a pick the weekend that you want or the day you want, and we'll do the open house. Sometimes we've done it right after the division meeting. Whoa. Hold on. There, yeah, got it. Well, that was an interesting sound effect. But please contact me. I'm Tom Gordon. The easiest email you can get to me with, don't spread this to the public, it is T Gordon, TGORDON at Mindspring, MINDSPRING.com. And yeah, I'll sign you up. And I would very much appreciate, we'd like to have more open houses. And these are members only type things. And tonight, this is just a preview. We got Peter Youngblood doing a really good presentation. You're going to really enjoy this one. His presentations are great. I can't wait. And we also have presentations pretty well scheduled in March. Walt Lyles is going to be doing a presentation on the Savannah ports, I believe, the railroad operations there. April, Jim and Christopher Davis will be doing operating sessions made easy. Perry's going to do a May meeting. It's going to be a kit bashing, but I was told the title is not good. So it's going to be about kit bashing.
So if you, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to reveal the old name. In June, Scott Dunlap's going to do earning the NMRA author certificate. And maybe someday I'll do that. It's paperwork, but he knows, he's got it down. He knows the details on it. July, Craig Knox is going to do the presentation on what he calls shooting the crescent. He's done a lot of videos of the Southern Crescent, real live ones, and he's going to give us ideas of photographing prototypes and models and using them and how to do them and all that other good stuff, which ought to be really pretty good. August is still open. I'll fill that. I think I have some volunteers for that one. In September, Joe Nichols Jr. is going to be doing a presentation he calls coil detectors, car cameras, and drones. And honestly, I have no earthly idea what that's going to be, but I'm sure it'll be good. So anyway, we have bring and brag. We have one item here. This was kind of an open bring what you want to bring. The owner would please come up. And I'll move the camera around.
Good evening. My name's Russ Bundy from Marlboro, Cedar Creek, and it is literally a garden railroad. We have a railroad going through a garden in our front yard. Kind of kit bashing, but tonight was work in progress. Our friends in Hobbytown, every now and then we'll get a consignment in to do that, and I happened to stumble across 3 U.S. Army cars which were out of production that I didn't have. I really didn't need a bother caboose, but I took all 3 of them because I didn't have one. And it's been sitting in the garage, so with nothing else to do, I had a flat car and decided to see if they would marry up. And so they kit bashed into one. And it doesn't really have a theme, except it's not going to be a railroad maintenance right-of-way type vehicle. It's going to be something that goes with the train to support the track vehicles or the trucks or whatever the train is transporting at that time. And that's what this is.
Yeah, give me a minute to rearrange the gadgetry here. Just one. Oh, okay. There we go. All right. Are there any other announcements?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay. Y'all have somebody to aim at now.
I received a question about the chits. How do we get a chit if we're not at a meeting? Only 2 ways to get a chit. That's either be at the next meeting in March, which is just 3 or 4 days before the show, or you can go by Hobbytown and pick up a chit from Howard, I guess, or Doug, either one. They'll have chits available there. So
That's his job.
so anyway, we wanted to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to get chits that want to sell on the White Elephant. All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, with well, it has an announcement. Oh, that's my apologies. I penciled you in and sorry, didn't read.
I know many of y'all know this gentleman. His name is Larry Brennan, Jacksonville, Florida. It's part of the Sunshine region. I just wanted to let you know he did pass away this afternoon at 3 o'clock. He was real active in the ACL, SAL, Historical Society, as well as the Sunshine region and the National. So if y'all know him, just want to make you aware of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Walt. Always hate to hear that kind of thing. What's this? Firefox protection. Please install now. I just closed it, Barry. Don't worry. I said, yeah, reformat drive signature.
All right, without any further ado, what we'll do is take like a 15-minute break. Be back at 20 till. Does that give you enough time, Peter? Excellent. So we'll come back at 20 minutes till, and we'll have our, one more, refreshments back here. You know, please get refreshments. That's another way we help support the division. And Gary spends a lot of time, and it ain't easy dragging that stuff in and out of here. So eat and drink as much of it as you can, so you won't have to take it all back to the car. See you at 20 till. Okay, fabulous.
Leave in for kit passing talk. Yes, that's what that is, a straight kit passing.
Yes, thank you. That's very cool.
I did one time set up where it worked. And then I disconnected because I used I have enough this control and I just hand everybody a controller. Just so
figure out some way to get you that right back to the lay level.
And that's I think that I do have a cable
Okay. Well, what is the plug into the back of this model? The other end has a USB or something. The serial port or USB? Well, all we're asking you, if you're not getting the cable,
it's in a box. It's just all in a box.
our cable will not protect you across the other outputs.
It plugs into the RS-230 on the back where the command station is. That goes to this dongle. It goes to an RS-230 dongle, which plugs directly into the electronic. And that's how I got it all top. And I used it a little bit. I ran it from JR. I ran it from a computer. Just a computer.
That's all I can do, everything else.
It ran on a tool.
I can get up there. So there's a time when you get the cable, they come yourself on the computer. Yeah, the cable. Bring it over to his house and want to do it. That would be. I'm not planning to have an announcement of that, but if there's an evening or a weekend that you can do that, I would not either, but I'm just thinking, that's what you use. Right, I have no, but you just never get, you put something on a laptop or a router or anything, it makes Lamb do something. I think I can get everything else done.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have any way to troubleshoot the cable, and I'm guessing the cable's wrong, but it could be we didn't get the, CVP set up to pick it up and accept it.
I don't know.
There's a variable in there.
The cable that goes from unit to unit to unit.
No. It's a separate plug on the back of the command station that has RS-232 written on it. What version of the command station you use, of the software you use? The latest?
No.
That's the problem. It only really is the latest stuff of the latest pin.
I'm not literate enough with a computer to know.
He's upgraded the chip in.
Right.
And that's the one that works with RS-232. I don't know if it worked before.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but it should.
Well, Mike writes you see who he is.
Oh, Keith Gutierrez.
Okay.
Oh, it's CVP.
Okay.
Now, did you buy your system from him, or did you get? Okay, that makes sense.
But it's.
Oh, he has your name. He will look and see. Did he buy it from me? Yes, I will sell him parts. If you didn't buy it from him, he ain't get shit. Which I think. Yeah, that's what. It's okay if you're the original owner. No big deal.
Okay, but let's see if we can borrow your cable or borrow you and your cable.
Okay.
Come over to see, and if you can make it work through our cable command, I'll resolder the cable.
Oh,
like I
okay.
had. But I just wanted to find out where
Yeah,
this part of the
I
process.
did get it working, and I know that cable works.
Okay.
I'd also like you to just take a quick look at how that stuff, I think my system's all plugged together, it works.
It works in the command station, right? Okay, so you're probably good on that.
He's got simple throttle, but it'd be nice to have.
Yeah, I like to walk around stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll get with
Can you
it.
talk to you before you get out of here, or?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Don't want to lose on you.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I don't think we need Peter to use that microphone.
Oh, okay.
I would just turn that off and have the whole line through.
That's good. Yeah. Okay.
The worst we can say is, yes. I'm just saying, and be able to run the roof to look at it. Right. That was his thing, right? Moving the roof, right? So it wasn't a thing. So it would be the Dan. Bottom interior. Whatever, however we do it. This is the thought. I mean, I'm serious about it.
Yes, and I want to do three things all at once. One is free, the other one is and the other one is, because people do that should be in the contest.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and yeah. Yes, yes.
It's certainly in keeping.
Okay.
I was flying the plane down to Florida last week, went to the restroom, came back, couldn't find my glasses. Oh shit, did they get her on the cushion? And the lady across the aisle said, "My glasses?" Yes, yeah, they're on your face.
Hey, that happens.
I am they were down here and I was focusing and dealing with all the testing crowd and all that. I was.
I often put them up here when I'm working in the store.
Put them in my pocket.
We all do it.
Well, we got another minute.
Do we have to use a handheld or?
No, we turned it on. The microphone's in there. You have a booming enough voice where it's not that big a deal, and you can probably walk around some.
I mean,
If you do, don't walk too far from the microphone.
right.
This.
I got my own.
Oh, okay.
It's, it's not tender.
I appreciate your doing this. I'll get that out of you.
Thank you, Tom.
I hate to see you move, so I enjoy the pictures. The pictures?
Well, you know, for quite a while, I had maybe 48 or so pictures that I was putting up there.
Yeah.
And then it became almost like an inside joke. Why does he keep putting these pictures up there? But the ones I have now are ones that you can get free without copyright infringement.
Those are hard to get sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much of this stuff. So I try to pick out the good ones. An overblown introduction. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's gonna be good. Okay. It's 20 till. Please take your seats. And since this is being broadcast, if you could cut down the conversations or have those outside. Thank you.
Yes, no?
He said you can probably time that. Okay.
I can use it if you have it.
No, I had to turn it off.
Okay.
All right, tonight our clinician is Peter Youngblood, whose presentation is from planning to benchwork and beyond. It really looked to me like it's going to be kitchen sink. This ought to be good.
That's what you said.
Yes. So anyway, I'll let Peter take it over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I take off my mask? Okay, you know, several months ago, I was giving a clinic at the NER convention. And I asked the same question. I said, is it okay if I take it off? They said, sure. I took it off. They said, put it back on. You look a lot better with it on. So that was a very good start. There's one in every crowd, you know that? Let me ask you something. How many of you have been to, in this case, I'm going to say New Mexico? Okay. Have you ever driven from Gallup, New Mexico to Farmington? That's where the Four Corners are. Well, I ask you this because the story goes that this woman is driving her car from Gallup to Farmington. And if you know that road, it's on 491. There's absolutely a lot of nothing between those two places. However, she sees a Navajo Indian woman walking along the highway, and she's got a bag of groceries. And she's going, well, first of all, I don't know where she got the bag of groceries, but she feels sorry for this woman who's walking out there in the middle of nowhere along the highway. So she goes past her, and then she decides, well, I should be a good person, so she backs up. And she rolls down the passenger side window and she says to this woman, would you like a ride? And the woman nods and she says, well, I'm going to Farmington. Is that okay? The woman nods. She says, all right. In that case, why don't you get in the back seat? Okay. And I'll take you to Farmington. So the woman gets in the back seat, the Indian woman,
And after a while, she looks over the front seat on the passenger side and she sees a bag. And she says to the lady driving, she says, "What in bag?" And a woman says, "Oh, it's a bottle of wine I got for my husband." The Navajo woman says, "Good trade." All right, I better get on with it here. So I was a little bit hesitant to do this clinic. I was asked to do that because I know that most of you in this room either have layouts or belong to clubs, whatever. But the interesting thing is that even so, okay, it's very easy in the planning stages to make mistakes that we realize later. Okay, I think we've all done that. So I've done it, that's for sure. But the idea here is to give you some guidance for those that of you may be newer to the hobby so that you don't make those mistakes. Okay. So here's the first question that you should consider, obviously. Okay, how much space do you have to do a layout? Answer is never enough. Okay, having determined that space, okay, how often do we consider the room, the garage, the basement, where the layout is going to be, okay? And how critical is that to, you know, the environment that we're going to be working in? Well, now that we know the available space, okay, what kind of prep work do we need to do? Okay, we don't normally come in there unless we're building, let's say, a 4x8 on sawhorses like that. If we're going to do something more permanent than that, we have to really consider, okay, what is the environment that we're going to be working in? Very common issues. A lot of you know this. I'm well aware of that. Okay, dust. One of the biggest enemies of our model railroads. Okay, so if we can, okay, we should cover the ceiling with plywood, okay? Or if we have acoustical tiles, that would be the second consideration, okay? We have to be aware that, especially with acoustical tiles, in time, they basically wear out. They create by themselves a certain dust as they get older. And more often than not, they begin to bow, especially if it's 2x4s instead of, say, 12x12s. Concrete, okay, is another factor we have to consider. If it's concrete block or whether it's poured concrete, unless we seal it, okay, it too will essentially, I'll say, bleed dust in time. So moisture and humidity, another factor, okay? If necessary, especially in this particular climate, we may need to have a dehumidifier. If that can possibly be plumbed, okay, so that the water that, the condensation of water that's created by the dehumidifier doesn't have to be emptied every other day from a pan, but it can actually be routed outside the building. Temperature swings, another important thing, okay? We've all noticed at some time, maybe early on in our building, that if we're using flex track and, you know, we don't make adjustments so that we leave a gap every so often in the rails, gosh, you know, all of a sudden we have something that looks like a snake. Okay, because, yeah, it will move with the temperature swings. So again, if we can keep the temperature at a fairly even temperature, that is the way we'd like to have it done. Floor covering. Okay, we don't always think early on that we're going to be standing a lot of the time. And how comfortable is that? If it's concrete, that's going to be difficult after a while for you to stand for any length of time. So you want to cover it, okay? And because you're going to walk on the cover, in this case, let's say carpeting or carpet tiles, you need to get a really good industrial grade carpeting. Otherwise, it too will wear out. This is very important per code. Okay. Where are your wall outlets going to be? In my case, some 20 years ago, the code required that it be every 8 feet. And I thought at the time, well, that's an awful lot of wall outlets. And then invariably at some point, you find that some of those are not where you wanted them to be because you can't reach them, but code is code. So you have to be careful with that. Lighting. This is I should say, pet peeve of mine. There are some very beautiful layouts that are all around us. We see those on the Piedmont pilgrimage. And sometimes what's disappointing is that they're not lit properly. That's just my opinion. Okay, so you have all this wonderful scratch built stuff, all the scenery done, and then the lighting is dark and you can't really enjoy the effort that was made by the builders. So then you have to decide nowadays, do you want incandescent or do you want LED lighting? Well, LED lighting is a lot more economical, and it's come to the point where you have dimmable LED bulbs that don't cost about the same as your car. So a big plus for that is they also don't give up heat. Okay? So give out heat. I had one modeler several years ago come to my house, good friend, and he's rather tall. And I had various tracks of incandescent lighting. And he said, after a while, he said, you might consider replacing these with LEDs. And I said, well, I want to when the price comes down a bit. I said, why is that? He said, because I'm burning the top of my head when I'm walking around your lab. Okay, this is hard to anticipate because we can generate from the various resources we have a basic budget for what we want to build. Answer to that is it's never going to be enough. Okay, so anyway. This is my layout before it was being built. I had done a lot of room prep. Okay, I had built at the time a closet for my wife because she had a lot of wardrobe that was show wardrobe, and then carpeted everything. When I had built her closet, I suddenly went, gee, what a thought. Okay, I think I'll make it look a little bit like a typical railroad station on the outside. So that was basically done for fun. So we had that done. What came up there?
Oh, other mounts.
No. There we go. Okay. Track plans to help us. Okay. I think you all know this. There's various ways that you can make a track plan. If you want to work from a published plan, there's certainly enough of those out there. If you want to modify it from a published plan, that's something else you can consider. If you want to design your plan from commercially available software programs, those are out there. If you want to hand draw it to scale using graph paper, dividers, track templates, etc., you can do that. Because I know myself, and I know that for me to learn essentially a software program would take me much longer than doing it the old-fashioned way. So here are some of the disappointments we're going to run into when we do our track plans. We all have grandiose visions that are okay, almost like, our stomach is not as big as the food as we think we're going to be able to eat. So nice to have a 36-inch minimum radius. And when I wanted that, I managed to achieve that. But of course, the first attempts to have that kind of a minimum radius ran my tracks right into a lolly column.
This is what everybody's seeing.
What backed up? I don't know why. I'm sorry, guys.
No, just click it one more time. Advance one more. There you go. Oop, back up now. Sorry.
Hello. Oh, we're not backing up.
Hold on. Let me see. There.
Okay. Sorry about that. It probably happened a few more times, but all right. So, the first curve that I drew where I wanted a 36-inch radius, it ran right into a lolly column. Okay. One of Murphy's laws. Okay. So can't do that. Number 8 turnouts. okay, with a number 8 frog. Okay, you know, these things are fairly long. So I managed to get a few in, but others had to be number 6. That's another concession. Well, this is kind of silly, but unless you're modeling a lumber railroad. Hello?
Go ahead, try again.
You didn't tell me this was going to be a challenge. Anyway,
You're a guinea pig.
Yep, we did it just for you, Peter. I worked hard to do that.
so a 4% grade, okay, you have to consider that that's not really going to work unless, okay, you're modeling, let's say, a lumber railroad with some switchbacks, something of that kind. Another easily made mistake, okay, how wide are the aisles? If you're entertaining the idea of having operations on your layout, you know, people are going to have to pass one another. So, although I know there's some examples where that's Howard, where I was operating at his layout one day and had to crawl underneath and between the legs of a guy coming the other way. Awkward. So again, almost everything we do, from the first time we envision it until we actually start doing it, is going to be a compromise. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so we can't always have exactly what we want. Okay, here's the old-fashioned way. Okay, so I chose to do this because I had done things like this before. And actually this had various overlays. And the reason I did that is there was an overlay for the actual benchwork. There was another overlay for where would the track lighting go. Because the one thing I was really aware of and didn't want to do was that the track lighting would actually create a shadow onto the layout. So that had to be figured out. It wasn't difficult to figure it out, and it wound up being pretty accurate. Benchwork. Okay, I think you guys all know this already. Okay, if it's just a tabletop layout, something like a 4x8, okay, usually 3/4 inch plywood is sufficient. Okay, L girder. I know some of you model using L girder benchwork. That's made so that you have girders that are movable. Okay, and usually they're made with 1x4s, and you form kind of a 1x4 and a 1x2, and you make essentially an L shape. And these are movable. You can move them around if they're not where you wanted them to. And initially, they can be moved. Open grid, that's an older way of doing things. Of course, because I'm older, that's the way I did it. Also called a box type. Cantilevered. I think I can show you this. Cantilevered is if you're concerned about the legs supporting your benchwork, of getting in the way of those that are visiting, getting in the way of yourself, because you keep hitting them with your feet. Okay, you can actually, go please. Okay, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. There we go. Okay, that's a cantilever type of construction that's been married to open grid or box type. What this does, it takes all the legs away, and you're not going to bump into them. You're not going to have people colliding with them when they're operating, that sort of thing. Okay. Come on. Okay. Backdrops or view blocks. Okay. So these are either, that's just up to you individually. You can either have it extend from your benchwork all the way up to your ceiling. Okay. I like that. Okay. Or you can have it extending it from the benchwork just to a height that you can't see over. Okay. Some people like to do it that way. That's a choice. Okay. Backdrops are done how? Well, you've got various choices there. You can use commercial backdrops, custom photo backdrops. You can use commercial printable backdrops. Lots of software for that. There's also cloud templates that you can use, or if you're adventuresome, okay, you can paint your own freehand or from photographs. I did a combination of all of those. Let's see if I can bring that up. Okay, on the left, you have hand painted. On the right, you can see a segment of something that I could download and print. So if you're paying attention, okay, you can take the foreground and blend it into the background. It takes a little extra work getting the colors right, and you can use props essentially to help, okay, keep, in this case, we've got a little pickup truck and a farmhand, and, you know, you can sort of divert the attention away from where there may be a scene. Okay, some of the materials. For years, okay, it was the custom to use masonite or hardboard, okay, in probably 8-foot lengths typically. And then just like you would with drywall, you would have to mud over, okay, where the two seams came together. And that often required some extra bracing. I think we learned over time that if you had temperature shifts and humidity shifts, that sooner or later, no matter how hard you try, the seams crack. Okay, and obviously that's not a good thing. I know modelers who have used essentially linoleum subfloor material that comes in rolls. As I indicate here, you need several 400-pound gorillas in order to put that up. Very difficult to set it up. Something that I used, and I have to thank some other modelers for this, in particular Steve Austin, okay, that you could actually buy sheet styrene in 8-foot lengths, and again, the width is 4 feet. So there's a place which I'll indicate later, if you want to copy it down, where you can buy that. It's 60 thousandths. The big, you know, advantage to that, it's easy to manipulate. The seams, when you mud the seams, okay, they're never going to crack because plastic is not going to move depending on the humidity, temperature, etc. So the other big advantage is that if you want to bend this in a corner to cove the corner, okay, you can basically cut whatever the length is you want, and then you can fasten it temporarily, you know, to your hardboard, not to your hardboard, to your wall, okay? And you can do that basically using glue. Several different types are available, okay? And then for just the amount of time it takes for that to dry, okay, you can actually tack it to the wall. Okay, once it's dry, you can remove the tacks, and there's nothing supporting it behind there, because all you've done is to bend it to the shape that you want, okay? And so it's really self-supporting without any bracing. Okay, where you see this sort of odd configuration of benchwork, right behind it, the styrene is wrapped around a lolly column. It's that flexible, okay? So that's what I've done with that. Hard to see, but behind the train here, behind and above the caboose, is a coved corner. Okay, so it's virtually undetectable. All right, various things to consider here with benchwork. If you buy some of these prefabbed pieces of benchwork, there's several companies that will sell you that. Okay, typically they drill holes, okay, in the cross members. Nothing wrong with that if you're smart enough to understand where you're going to put your vertical risers. Okay, because you don't really want to block the holes. So, you know, another way to do it is what I decided to do, okay, and that is to run them through essentially these eye hooks underneath the cross members. Okay, and you can have large eye hooks, you can have small eye hooks, you can have multiples, obviously. So this way you don't run into the problem of suddenly having a riser, okay, where you want your wires to go. Another couple of shots of that. Okay. Tagging the wires. Okay. It occurred to me one day that, you know, we get a lot of these little clips that are typically attached to a bread bag or other bakeries, you name it. They come in different colors. So you've got to eat a lot of bread or whatever if you want the colors on these little tags to match the colors of your wires. Or if you don't want to do that, okay, you can basically write on them, okay, with a marking pen, okay, and then you just hook them to those wires. Okay, and if you have a large layout, you just get some more of that same color, eat more bread, and you've got everything tagged. All right. Benchwork for special circumstances. And depending what kind of layout you're building, what the geography should be, the topography should be, okay, you can run into these really weird situations that with enough noodling, you'll figure out eventually. Okay, but they take a little more work. The one on the left here, okay, obviously that was going to be a curve. And because the risers in some cases are not supporting any track, okay, they will support scenery. And in this case, what happened there was a canyon. So the sub-road bed went around a canyon about 180 degrees. To the right of that, this is a slightly condensed version of the Canyon Diablo Bridge, which is in Arizona. So there again, benchwork had to be created. So essentially it's stepped. Okay, and I tried something at the base of that bridge, sort of to the background. Some of you have seen my layout, you know what I'm talking about. I had an oval of N scale track running there, forcing the perspective. It was on a timer, so it disappeared behind the backdrop and then reappeared about a minute and a half later. So I wasn't sure that was going to work, but after I did it, I thought, okay, I'll keep it. It was totally unprototypical when I considered the real thing because there isn't any N-scale track running underneath the real thing. To the right, okay, this was for a turntable. It happened to be in a corner where you can see a bit of what looks like a box above it, where the main shutoff was for the house, for the water. So if you're like me, you suddenly get a gigantic inspiration in the middle of the night when you go to relieve yourself. Usually it's a lousy inspiration by the time you wake up in the morning. But in this case, it actually worked. I thought, well, you know, I could build this so that it slides out like a drawer. So using drawer slides, okay, that's exactly what I did. So when this piece pulled out, you could access the water shutoff if you had to. Okay. Anyway. You know, things underneath the layout, for example, here on the right, we hope. Okay. You know, there are places where you want to attach electronics, and you can attach that to your benchwork, or you can create actually some benchwork to hold all of that. So that's what I had to do here. Another thing which I didn't illustrate here is that if you have an area where you have quite a bit of wiring going in or some special feature that you want to use on your layout, how smart is it to make a diagram of the wiring and actually put it in place where that unit is? Yeah, I used to keep it in a book, like a loose leaf binder, and then, okay, once I created a short, I would go look at what the diagram was I actually drew. So this puts it right where the item is. Okay. Back up one, maybe. All right, we'll let it go here. All right, sub-road bed, okay, risers. These are just choices, okay, that you can make. For sub-road bed, it's worth the expense to buy some really good birch type plywood. It won't have any knots in it. It looks like something that probably Brian would use if he's building some cabinet work. Okay. It's also less prone to moving. Okay. To basically move, up and down. So it's very worthwhile getting a good grade birch plywood for sub-road bed. Another thing, and again in this climate, okay, you can use a latex primer coat like Hills, okay, and you seal that plywood road bed on both sides, okay, then really you've done everything you can to prevent it from moving. Some people now are building on top of some plywood, for example, are going to use 2-inch thick foam, okay, or some commercial grade, which is usually used in houses as commercial bats, insulating bats. Riser material, your choice, 1x4s, 1x3s, 1x2s. Again, good grade pine or fir. Hardware, drywall screws are very sturdy, okay. They don't easily work their way out. Carpenter's glue, well, that depends. I never used carpenter's glue on my layout, but I know some people do. And again, whatever you're using, make sure you prime it. All right, actual road bed. All right, most popular is cork. Okay, sometimes hard to get, but there's various companies that make it, usually in 3-foot lengths. As you know, you can split it down the middle. Okay, it sort of curves more or less easily. Commercial foam road bed from Woodland Scenics. I use that. It has its pluses and minuses. The plus is that it's very easy to work with it because it bends very easily, and you glue it down, and within a couple hours of gluing it down, you can lay track on top of it. It's ready to go. Okay, commercial track products. I don't really need to go into that. There's a large variety of choices. If you're a bit of a masochist, you can hand lay your track. I remember years ago making a jig for that. You probably are all familiar with that. So you could slide the ties in, and then you could put a piece of tape over that. You could pull it up so it looked like a fence. You then glued it down to your road bed, and you had 3 feet of hand laid ties. You thought you'd gone a long way. It's now midnight, and you're going to go to bed. Next morning, you get up, and at 7 o'clock, you go, Jesus, I didn't go anywhere. So it's very labor intensive. The result is beautiful. Okay. Even though nowadays you can paint track, you can paint ties, you can airbrush them, and you can get them, if you want to work at it a little bit, to look very much like their hand laid ties. All right. So again, there's all different rail sizes. Okay. Charlie mentioned that, you're going to have a fast track training camp down the road. This is something that a friend of mine, Tim Morris, came up with. He is a machinist by trade, and he started making these fast track templates because he needed that for his own use. And then suddenly it became a commercial available item, and he's expanded, okay, from simple turnout jigs to all kinds of different things in different scales. So, there's crossings, there's almost anything you can imagine. He now manufactures a template for it. Okay, not all of you like to do this because you kind of maybe like to wing it. I know that I'm anal with some of this stuff because I like to get it right and not have to redo it. So when you have the track components that you're going to use for a certain area, okay, I would lay it out. And the way I would lay it out is on this plywood. I had essentially copied from my hand-drawn layout sketch, okay, the same grid as I had on the sketch were basically 1-inch squares. So looking at my drawn layout plan, I could then transfer that directly, okay, onto the plywood because I've got the same grid pattern to look at. Okay, fascia. Okay. Another brilliant idea that happened probably at 3 o'clock in the morning when I had to do a bio break or something like that. Okay. Why, after I had used some of these masonite pieces in this case, okay, to layer a backdrop, okay, not the backdrop itself, but to come forward maybe an inch, inch and a half with another layer, this time using some of the masonite, is, hey, I've got this stuff cut so it's got all kinds of contours to it. Why don't I just reuse it? And, you know, maybe cut a little bit here and cut a little bit there. And then what we get here on the left, you can see, I hope, okay, that between the blue backdrop, there's 2 layers of masonite. So I'm not worried about seams anything because they're going to be decorated with scenery. So what it does, it creates essentially an illusion that you have more, let's say, mountain ranges before you actually get to the backdrop. Again, everything that I used here was sealed with Kills primer. Okay, ballast. Okay, this is always a good argument you can have at any convention. Okay, I shouldn't say tired of hearing this, but you know, 2 common commercial companies. You've got Woodland Scenics, and then here we go. Did you know that's made up from ground walnut shells? I didn't know. Do I care? No. Okay. Arizona Rock and Mineral. There's some unfortunate, I guess, individual who for years has been grinding up real rock. Okay. In Paulson, Arizona. Okay. And he actually takes real rock and he grinds it into ballast. Okay. And he can do different colors. Back when I had the hobby shop in Kennesaw, I had several customers say to me, do you have any CSX ballast like what you got behind the store? And I said, well, I've got this and that, but no, it's not an exact match. So what did I do? Okay, I took a big box, stole some ballast from the CSX, took it to the post office, and the guy said, what in the hell is in here? Well, I didn't want to say rocks. I just said, it's just heavy. It's okay. So I sent this out to this gentleman, okay, and it was about 3 weeks later. Here comes bagged, okay, with a header, with the title, CSX Ballast from Kennesaw, Georgia. I arrived. So we now could fulfill the request for that. Okay. Fastening Ballast. Okay. Everybody has, again, several choices they use. A lot of people use diluted white glue. Okay. And what we call essentially wet water. So before they actually apply the glue, they'll take a spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol, 70%. It dries a little slower than 90%. And so they'll spray their track and the ballast with the isopropyl alcohol, and then they'll put down the glue. What that does, it breaks the surface tension. Okay, so therefore you don't get little sort of bubbles and clumps of ballast, but instead of that, it'll lay down very smoothly. I didn't mention, some of us like to do the same thing, but instead of white glue, we use matte medium. You'll have to take my word for it. This is Arizona Rock and Mineral Ballast. It's not walnut shells. Okay, so. Backdrop opportunities, okay. I always enjoy experimenting in this hobby. So I thought all of a sudden, okay, so you've layered some of this reused masonite and you've got it about an inch apart, one from the other. So rope lights, huh? Okay, as I said, I may be a little strange when I do these things, but I like to try things out. So basically I bought a string of rope lights and I fastened them directly to the backdrop. And then notice that if I, lit everything up, I could create a sunset, or I create a sunrise, or I create a giant forest fire, and you better call in the borate. Okay, But they do come with a dimmer switch, and basically they have 3 settings, and you just kind of figure out what you think is right. But it makes a very interesting effect. And I did it on the west facing walls, okay, and you know, just wanted to try to do a sunset kind of thing. All right, I can show you an example here of these pieces of masonite that I reused. And once they're basically decorated with scenery materials, okay, you can get an interesting effect that you have several ridges here of mountains or hills. And this is the borate version on the right. But there you have what happens when you put the rope lights behind them. Okay, so if you want to play around with that, I mean, it's easy to do. Unfortunately, rope lights didn't at the time, and I don't know that they do now, come in orange. So this is a red one, which is dimmed down slightly, but you know, I could dim it even further. But to illustrate the point here, that's what I wanted to show you. Okay, we've got various ways of doing our scenery. Okay, and I know, again, most of you are familiar with that. I had done this before, so I chose to do it again. So I did a cardboard grid, okay, held together with hot glue, and then stuffed wadded newspaper into it. And then you eventually cover it, okay, with plaster cloth. Others nowadays prefer to use essentially the insulation bats again. And you use a hot knife, you use whatever knife you're comfortable with, and you can start to cut away and form the shapes you want. Okay, I did a combination of both. It just happened to be that way. I didn't plan it that way. I have no idea how a shaper sheet works. All I know is I got to be careful when I say it. This is something reasonably new from Woodland Scenics. I get the idea that it's meant more for a 4x8, you know, tabletop layout than it would be for anything beyond that. Is Bragdon still around? Anybody know Bragdon Enterprises? I'm going to hurry.
No. Just you're behind. I think that's where you are.
You want to back up one?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry. Okay, well, we'll go ahead from that, I think. Okay, here's some of the evolving scenery. You've got okay. You can see the wadded up newspaper that's been pushed into a grid made out of just cut up cardboard held together with hot glue. Trouble is I can't, okay, we'll try this. Barry, show me the magic key you pushed, if you would.
Go to the next slide.
Yeah, we want to go there. Seem to be stuck on, which one was it?
It's the enter key.
Just the enter key?
Yeah, just
Okay,
hit the enter
thanks. All right. So here's the cardboard grid. Obviously, what you can't see on the right is the wadded up newspaper, and then it was covered with plaster cloth. Okay, so you just, I know you know how to do a lot of this, so let me try this. Oh, Eureka. An epiphany. Good. All right, here's another way. Okay, you may have thought of this, but on my own layout, okay, this was this canyon, the end of a curve of a canyon. There is on the prototype railroad, there is a bridge like this. Well, I had 2 choices. I could either use 2 side pieces of a bridge, Okay, in this case, it's a Central Valley bridge, and I only used the side components because the plywood, you can see barely on the right here, is what is actually supporting the track and the bridge itself. You can't see underneath there, so there was no point in building the bridge from the kit and just going through that whole process. Okay, after you've got everything covered with a plaster cloth, okay, you want to find, I use latex, okay, a ground color. So this is only there so that if some of the architectural foam, whatever you're using later on to cover this, if you suddenly have a bare spot, okay, it's not white, white, white. Okay, you've got the basic ground color. Okay, that's your choice. Very often, okay, people return cans of paint to Lowe's or Home Depot, and to get rid of it, they'll sell you a gallon for $5 or even less. So that's a good place to go look first before you spend more money. Water, okay, many ways to do water. Quick story, when we had in '96 the National Convention here, I was on the tour, and I was also giving a clinic with Howard at the time on how you could do water. Well, wouldn't you know, the morning that I went down to check on the layout and make sure everything was in place, the first thing I step onto is a wet carpet. I went, great. So out comes, you know, the emergency crew and the shop vac, and we start picking up all this water. And, you know, the towels come down, everything we could do to soak it up. Well, I only got half of it, you know, to the point where you could actually walk on it. So I had tape that looked like crime scene tape. And so I put it around the layout where people shouldn't go because that was still too wet. But I told them when the bus came, I said, you know what? I said, this afternoon, I'm giving a clinic on how you do realistic water. But you don't have to come because I'll show you the real thing right now. So we kind of, you know, worked our way out of that problem. All right. Water, okay, you've got, again, various companies making various products. You all know that if you have in the river, in the pond, and whatever it is, if you've covered that with plaster cloth and then you've painted it with latex and you think I'm good to go, look out. Because any water that you pour is going to find a pinhole. So you pour your water and then you go to bed, the next morning it's all on the floor. You know, great. So Flex Paste is made for that particular purpose. It's a sealer. Okay, it's a thick paste, it's white. You can paint it, whatever, but I would encourage you, if you're going to do any kind of a river, water, anything, and you're going to pour some water in there, okay, make sure that you've sealed everything very, very well. Okay, I like to use Envirotex Light. It's a 2-part casting resin. Okay, it does dry absolutely flat. So be aware of that. It also likes to creep up a little bit on the shoulders of your water, so of the actual scenery. But there's ways to get around that. Okay, ways to get around that is that whatever has crept up the banks of your water, okay, you can disguise that with scenery, you can paint it, you can do whatever, and it magically goes away. Okay, the other thing is that, and we'll look at that in a second, you can actually tint, okay, as you can with other products, Envirotex Light. Now, the nice thing, it has absolutely no odor. Okay, years ago, we used to use something that was the type of thing you would embed a coin in. You'd make a block of clear plastic, essentially. And, you know, then you had to evacuate the house for about a week. It had a very, very strong odor. But on the other hand, all the bugs left too. So. Okay, let me go to this. Okay, here's some of the dyes. I mean, there's lots out there now. And Woodland Scenics, as you know, came out with a whole new line of water products. And I've not used them, but I understand they work very well. They do make something called water effects. Okay, water effects, once you've actually poured and let dry, let's say your Envirotex, You can come back and you basically use a paintbrush and water effects, and you can start swirling, you can start making waves, whatever. It dries absolutely clear. Kind of looks like toothpaste coming out of the bottle, but then it will dry clear. Howard wanted something done on his layout, and he wanted to basically learn how it was done. So he's got a small area on his layout where we use the water effects. Here on the left, you can see that it's looks white, and we're just swirling that around with a paintbrush. And then the last step, when all of that is dry, okay, you can go back with a Minwax water-based clear gloss, okay, final coat. And over here, try to get over there. Okay, you can see how that looks when it's done. So this is water that is not, is not just lying there. It's actually moving. Okay, that's the impression we want. It's been slightly tinted. You don't want to overdo the tint. Some layouts have this bright blue water. Unless you're reflecting a bright blue sky, okay, that's probably not quite the way it should be. Again, here's the same series of products. There's a kind of a small waterfall there. And that was done with two things. That was done with white latex out of a tube. And when that dried, I went over that again with water effects. I have fun with these little mini scenes, as you well know. And so here we have, actually, we're looking down through the water. Okay, and we've got some birds there, and really hard to see, I think, but there is a fish that somehow they landed. Okay, and they're surrounding that. It was a rainbow trout. That was fun to paint, but you have to believe me. Force perspective. This is something I really like to see on layouts, and it's fun to play with that. Okay, very simply what you do is, up front you have the full size of your scale that you're working in, and as you go gradually back from there, back from the front to the back, you can play around with using smaller objects. Okay, so here's an example here. Okay, maybe not the best example, but up front is HO. As I went to the back, I used N scale. Okay, there's kind of a mesa there, and so those things are all N scale. To the right, same thing. Okay, this dump truck is full scale. As I went back towards the backdrop, it's not a long ways, I just used HO scale vehicles, but I made them smaller. Okay, as I went towards the backdrop. Made smaller, I simply chose smaller vehicles to help force the perspective. Here was another example. This is part of that N scale loop that ran underneath the Canyon Diablo Bridge. So this is all N scale. I wasn't sure about this, but once I had done it, I thought, okay, I'll leave it. So on the right here, bring that up. That's an N scale truck. Okay, and you're looking at it essentially through this this underpass. Structures again, okay, this is kind of a big duh, but we can buy these things for an overpriced amount, okay, pre-built. As you probably know, Woodland Scenic started doing this a couple of years ago, and you can buy a pre-manufactured building now for about twice, if not a little more than one that you'd have to put together. But if that's what you prefer to do, or you don't have time to do it, those options are out there. Kit bashed, okay, I think we know what that is. That's known as destroying perfectly good models and turning them into something else, with sometimes success, sometimes moderate success. I wish my friend Jim Gore had been able to come here and give you a clinic. Jim Gore is a master model railroader. He's part of the Modeling with the Masters team. He is essentially a consultant for clever models. These are paper models, okay? And when this guy puts one of these things together, from where I am to where Jim is, even closer, you can't even tell that this is a paper model because they're layered, so they are three-dimensional to some extent, okay? But they're made out of paper. He gives a wonderful clinic on that. Other thing to do, you can do, okay? Here's a commercial. On the left is a commercial background, flat, and you can add dimension to that. So I just added, the obvious things. You've got an awning, you've got created a little porch with a nice young lady there who is actually communicating long distance with, you can barely see this other woman who is standing in the street. On the right, okay, this is something I found on the internet. I just cut this out and then sort of used it as a backdrop and blend that into a three-dimensional piece of scenery. Okay, here's half a building, okay, because the other half wasn't built because this is right against the background or the backdrop. Okay, so you don't always have to build an entire building. On the right is, I should go back for a minute. The building you just saw, okay, is actually in Lamy, New Mexico. It's changed owners. They've changed the facade a little bit, the way it looks, but it was essentially a bar and a grill, okay, called a legal tender. So when the name trains would arrive into Lamy on the Santa Fe, it opened up. When everybody was falling out of the building because they were dead drunk, they would close. So that was their operating hours and criteria. All right, we're going on to something else here. Okay, this again is a truncated structure. This is a Walther's kit. I don't remember which one it is right now. I think it was a produce building or something. Okay, so I wanted to make it look a little bit different than that. Not only that, but I had to cut it in half to place it where I wanted it to be on the layout. All right, this is a kit bashed, okay, icing dock. The building in the back, the main building, okay, is kit bashed. And then I used several commercial kits, I think, to make the actual dock that the ice is on and will be loaded into the cars. This is something that I love to do because layouts in a way should tell a story. At least that's my concept. So we can make mini scenes, and these become, if you will, the actors that draw your attention to that part of the layout. You can make up your own story. Okay. What are these two guys doing here? I don't know, but it does say that they recycle, okay, cows, or used cows. I don't know what they're talking there, but anyway, they're having a pretty good conversation. But what this does, typically, it draws you, okay, the viewer, into a scene. And I think that's a rather important component of building our layouts. Not only that, but it's also fun. So, we can do other examples here. This is, back in the old days, we used to have cottages and cabins. We didn't have motels per se. Anyway, so you've got a little activity going on here. Okay, here's a mother heading for the little playground area, and she's carrying a child. Over on the right, if you were familiar with where I come from, okay, at the larger train stations, okay, you'll usually find Native Americans selling some kind of weave, sometimes pottery, etc. But that adds a little realism, okay, to your models. On the right, you can tell I'm from the Southwest. Okay, here we've got some figures that are branding a cow, a calf. Okay, and so actually went to the length of hanging this rider. Okay, he's got the calf controlled. Okay, on the end of his rope. So there too, easy to make a little fire, something that looks like a fire, and has to use a red LED. Okay, and you build the fire around it like a fire pit, and then you use a little bit of cotton. Okay, go easy with that, and then you create the illusion of a fire. I had fun with this one because I made up my own story. This guy's asking him, what did he do with his horse? He says, well, I got a better one. Okay, so there too is a little mini scene. I get kidded about this quite a bit. Okay, but here's a little area where there's a lot of stuff going on. I couldn't show you the complete area itself. But, there's something going on here, something going on there. And then people say, yeah, you had to do that part behind the horse. I said, well, I've ridden horses all my life. That's what they do. The whole thing is to be prototypical. Well, what did you use to do that? I said, I use coffee grounds. But drink the coffee first and then use the grounds. Don't waste the coffee. All right. Here's the guys that are going to be, moving the ice around and loading them into cars. Jerry Leone asked me about this. He says, how in the world did you make ice to look like ice? I said, well, we buy this commercial ice, little packages of commercial ice, and they're just crystal clear. I said, well, ice that's been out for a little while isn't crystal clear. So you can see the top part, is one color essentially. And underneath that, we just left the crystal clear. Well, how did you do that? I said, well, I just took a little sandpaper and I roughened up this clear ice, and suddenly it wasn't clear anymore. But I left some of it clear. I said, oh, learned something. I said, I actually taught Jerry Leone something. I said, yeah, well, we all learn from one another.
I've seen so many ice docks. I've never seen any of them since the southern.
Yeah, there are some here. Okay. They're actually beneath the platform itself. Certain, I should say, loads that are in refrigerated cars have to be temperature controlled. And so there's different ways. It sounds funny, but there's different ways of icing them. Okay, in some cases, they had to add salt to the salt blocks, as they put them into the cars. Okay, so again, it was a temperature situation. It also had a way of distributing the ice a little better than if it was just put into blocks. Again, that depended on what actually is in the cars. This you don't see too often, but I wanted to do one. This is called a shoe. And how well can you see that? Okay, the one that's vertical. If you notice, it has a center portion of that shoe, which can actually move. So when the shoe comes down, the person icing the car, in order to get ice to come in all the different places where the ice should go, when they open the hatch, they can do the closest one to them by simply raising that midsection so the ice is not going to go any further. Or when they lower it, it goes to the furthest hatch away from the platform. So it'll slide right through and go into there. So this also moves along a rail. Okay, I don't know if any of you want to copy this down, but this is where you can get styrene backdrop. You tell me when you want me to move on. Last I knew, the price was roughly $35 for a 4x8 sheet, 60 thousandths. By the way, these places will cut it up for you. Okay. Everybody okay? Oh, wait a minute, we're taking pictures. Is that what you need? Okay. All right. So here then is my last slide. For those of you who are on Facebook, you may have seen that for quite a while I've been posting pictures of Arizona sunsets. It was kind of an inside joke. And finally, one person asked me, "Where in the hell do you live anyway?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Kennesaw, Georgia, but I will be moving to Arizona." So guys, I really want to thank you. Okay, it's been a privilege to know you guys, to work with you guys, to be part of what I consider the best division of all the divisions in the country. So I hope you'll come by the train show, so I can properly say, see you. Okay, and if you come out to the Phoenix area of Arizona, let me know. I'm keeping the same, same websites. I'm keeping the same phone. So I don't intend to be a stranger, but I bought a little house out there in a 55 plus community. And so I'll be moving there. That's something I've been wanting to return essentially to my Southwestern roots. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Don't go yet. We're going. We have a couple of minutes. Oops. Yeah.
Want me to show you how to do it?
Yeah, okay, well. Yeah, okay, we have a couple of minutes for question and answer. I guess those on the internet can text them in. That would probably be the preferred matter. Anybody here?
You got to be kidding.
Come on.
I answered everything.
All right.